Hi everybody. Thanks for joining. Mike Dovbish, Executive Director of Nutrition Capital Network, here to talk about our mid-year report and what we're starting to see during Q3 of 2025. Nutrition Capital Network, sounds like people can hear me now, so I think we're okay. We hold investor and partnering meetings throughout the year for companies in the broader health and nutrition industry. And investors include anybody from early stage angel investors, VCs, family offices, to many corporates. And those can include companies like Balchem, Campbell Soup, several others that are interested in the industry. Okay, so where do we fall? So Nutrition Capital Network is part of Informa Markets, and our sister companies include everybody from New Hope Network, SupplySide Global, Vita Foods, NBJ Summit. And we hold events, our own events, but also we hold events alongside some of the larger conferences. So we generally hold 4 conferences a year, 4 investor meetings a year. This year we snuck in NCN Asia early in February. We hold then 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall. So our upcoming events include NCN at SupplySide Global, as well as NCN Fall in San Francisco. And then we also hold investor sessions at Expo West, as well as Newtopia Now. And we'll be holding an investor networking breakfast on October 21st and a brand investor speed networking session on August 22nd. Okay, I'm not going to go into a lot of details here, but I wanted to make sure I share this information on Beacon. It's a brand discovery platform through New Hope, and it has a lot of really interesting information that's going to be very helpful for investors in their due diligence. This presentation will be shared, so you'll be able to access this and all the other slides, and this will point you on how to get to Beacon if you haven't already done so. So what does 2025 look like so far? Unfortunately, we thought it was going to be a turning around point. We think that might be happening now, but even though we had a very pro-business administration come in, we still faced a lot of headwinds, higher interest rates, and then of course issues with tariffs. Made a lot of investors sit on the sidelines. And here are the numbers that we tracked over the last 10 years. And you could see it really peaked out in 2021, 2022. And as soon as interest rates rose, you can see what happened in 2023 and to the present. The activity really fell off. I'd probably say, though, that 2021 and 2022 was probably an anomaly. We had really low interest rates, unlike anything we've seen in a long time. So there was a lot of froth in the market. And now here's a table of how we break things out. Just going down the list: ag tech, biotech and food tech, branded food and beverage, technology, OTC and personal care, supplements, ingredients and contract manufacturing, retail and distribution, and other. In ingredients and contract manufacturing, you're seeing that there's fall off there. It's a little bit complicated because some of the ingredients that we track have now been going into the ag tech, food tech, and biotech category. These are fermentation technologies, things like that. So we sort of have been moving them in that category. So the dip that you see from a high of 12 to 2, it's not really apples to apples. But you can see financings have come down, and we all want things to turn around. There's some really good momentum this summer. So we're hoping that the second half of the year we'll see some stronger movement. And then here are some segments, as you can see, some of the bigger ones: ag tech, biotech, and food tech, branded food and beverage, and technology. Again, peaking 2021 into 2022, and then really coming down into 2025. And in particularly, You can see ag tech, biotech, and food tech and technology really took a hit. And what's nice to see is the branded food and beverage has didn't take as much of a hit, but you can see it's still down off its peak. So I wanted to call out supplements. Supplements was really, if anything, it was a standout in terms of category. Um, I did a post on this on LinkedIn, and Q2 we saw some really banner deals happen. And part of this, there's a couple things happening here. One, it's part of GLP-1, the effects of GLP-1, and the move towards protein supplements, as well as just the general MAHA movement, clean proteins. That's been, I think, clean ingredients across the board, but particularly with supplements, has been a real high point for the industry. So I just want to let everybody know if anyone has any questions, please put that in the LinkedIn chat and that'll be sent my way. I'm happy to answer any of those. Okay, so moving on into M&A, you can see this also was a bit challenging as well. Um, Again, issues along with um, technology, just not as many deals happening. Branded food and beverage really slowed down, but there has been a pickup. So we don't update these by month or quarter, but we have seen a trend up recently, and there's been some big deals. You can see the M&A. Here's a little bit more of it broken out. Um, Branded food and beverage, ingredients and contract manufacturing, and supplements. Okay, so I wanted to pull out, there was some notable deals, and I wanted to pull out four in particular that were NCN alumni. I think the first one, I haven't seen as much attention on a deal as this one in a very long time. So I think by now everyone's familiar with David, the protein, the supplement or the nutritional bar company, David, and they came out with a product of, I guess, frozen fish cod. I to this day don't know if that's actually a product that was sold in market, but regardless, they a lot of press around them, a lot of I think polarizing ideas and comments about their positioning, about their strategy, and they bought an ingredient company, Epigee, which is an NCN alumni company, and that was also part of the controversy with the brand locking up this ingredient, which I then think blocked out other brands that could use this fat replacement ingredient. So a little bit of controversy here, but David itself, I believe the founders were from RX Bar. There's a lot of notable people involved in the company, within the industry. So I think this is an interesting one to watch, and um, I think it's who they're targeting and the positioning of it. It's uh, it's 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 definitely one to watch, and we'll see how they perform. But from what I'm hearing, they're doing very, very well. Um, and the next one I wanted to bring up was Lesser Evil. Lesser Evil was a company that presented at NCN, I think maybe in 2008 and 2008 or 2009, and they were acquired by Hershey. They were at that time also a popcorn snack company, um, but I think they muddled along for several years and brought in a new management team, new investors, and they really took off. And so it's been really exciting to see. They were bought by Hershey, and we wish them the best. So that's an exciting one. The next one is Alani Nu and Celsius. Celsius, the acquirer, was actually an NCN alumni as well, around the same time as Lesser Evil. They too went through a period of um, some shifts in management, but they brought in new investors and went public. So that was a real, probably our biggest success story with Celsius, and they bought Alani Nu, and I believe a lot of the growth now from in Celsius is coming from Alani Nu. So I think what this shows too is that the energy category is still very strong. I do think it's slowing a little bit, but there's still a lot of opportunities there. So I think this is an interesting one. Celsius really came on big. Took them a little bit of time, but they grew to they became a very large company, then acquired a company. I think they had some foresight about acquiring a company and knowing that that maybe there's some up and coming companies that could that have maybe some higher growth potential. And then the last one is Simple Mills. Simple Mills presented about 10 years ago, and they were acquired by Flower Foods. So I think that was a good deal for them. And we had the founder at our NCN Expo West session. So that was really nice to have her there. Okay. Questions. I do have one that came in. I'll address that in just a minute. But I wanted to move away from the mid-year report and just talk a little bit about what's happened since. So uh, the mid-year report went through the end of June. We're now in middle of August. And so what are we seeing out there? So far, there's more activity, and there's different things that have come about, and I see a few themes. This just could be a coincidence, but we saw a few chocolate deals. Awake Chocolate, I believe they're at Canada. Win Win, which is an alternative chocolate company out of Europe. And then coffee. I think coffee is an interesting one. It's the prices have gone up quite a bit. You have Peace Coffee out of Minnesota, a traditional coffee company, and then you have Prefer, which is a beanless coffee company that is based out of Singapore. Prefer actually presented at our Asia event earlier in the year, so it's interesting to see that there's opportunities for both sort of, I guess, a coffee 4.0 and a coffee, let's say 2.0 or 3.0, the sort of the next generation of artisan coffees, but then beanless coffees. And then the middle company that you see is Wild Grain. I actually had not heard about them recently, and I believe they just raised some money. It's a profitable company from what I've read. I think they're up to about 30 million, and it's baked goods that are sold direct to consumer. And I thought this is a really interesting one. I think this is a company that if you're an investor that invests in brands, this is obviously something that would pique your interest. Profitable, direct to consumer, and have gotten really good reviews on them. Going then into the bottom right corner, we're still seeing a lot of tech come in. We do have these types of companies present at our meetings, and it could be anywhere from AI to robotics to pure tech. Flow Vision Solutions. They are a AI consumer products manufacturing company. 4AG Robotics is a robotics company solely focused on mushrooms. So they have robotic arms picking mushrooms. So really interesting. And I think technology. I think we have our periods where they are peaking. There's a lot of companies coming out. There's a lot of capital flowing to them. But I find the recent ones are really interesting with some really good business models, because what that's saying to me is that companies that are coming out, technology companies that are coming out now, I feel like investors are very much more discerning than they were. So if they're placing a bet, making an investment in these companies that got funded recently, I think that they feel like they've got like a sustainable business model. And the last one is Zucca. They are a technology software company using AI. And what they do is they help streamline the product development um, process for brands. And lastly, I just wanted to mention UC Davis. There's still a lot of companies incubating and spinning out of UC Davis. These include Crocus Bio and Newsicer. They have a lot of UC Davis and the whole Central Valley of California. There's just a lot happening, even in the adjacent cities such as Sacramento and Woodland. A lot of companies coming up and spinning out of these areas, and I foresee that to continue. I know Mars is really invested in UC Davis and really loves to see and help incubate new companies and help entrepreneurs get started. Wanted to throw up another uh, opportunity slide here. I did a post about this recently on LinkedIn, and I won't go into too many details here, but and again, we'll share this with everybody. But I just think there's a lot of opportunities with health and nutrition companies. We obviously highlighted NCN alumni companies here, but anything from Peloton to Bellring Brands to OpenAI, there's a lot of places for health and nutrition companies to find opportunities with these larger companies. Peloton just announced that they're going to be moving into nutrition. That's on their roadmap. Um, Bubble Goods is a e-com platform for local and artisan foods, and that'd be a great fit for Etsy. Neuritas, it uses AI for peptide discovery, and they were an NCN alumni from about 10 years ago. And so I think a company like that would have, there could be some really interesting conversations with a company like OpenAI. And then you have someone like Erewhon, the retailer in Southern California, could be interested in investing in a company like True Grace. I mentioned these companies, these are NCN alumni companies, but they could be there's many other companies out there. So if you're an entrepreneur, I would say there's many ways you could think about the types of investors you could be going after or partnership opportunities that might be available to you. I also wanted to bring up globalization, and really this conversation probably started back in Expo West. We had a panel talking a bit about this, and it's continued through Vita Foods and recent and now, and I think it's going to be a topic that's just going to be ongoing in the years to come, and it can mean a few different things. Out of Vita Foods, that's the big conference similar to Supply Side Global that's held in Europe, and we had our investor and partnering meeting there, and a lot of the companies there they were confused about policies that have been put in place, but they were starting to understand that this could just be the new normal, and they're still very much interested in coming into the U.S. So they just feel that it's almost like no matter what, they still want to be coming into the U.S. Just because it's the biggest market, and that will not change for the very foreseeable future. So I feel like companies are just going to they're just going to take that in, and they're going to figure out a way to make it work. And then I think ingredient companies that have a low cap X, there's licensing opportunities there. They could, if you're a company that's based here, that let's say you're an ingredient company, there's still a lot of opportunities for you to license that technology. For example, if you want to move into the Asian market. Okay, I think this is a good stopping point. I have a couple questions here. Let's see here. Any women's health data and CPG. Um, I'm not sure if that's a specific question around investment in women's health or if that's general women's health data around CPG. If it's general data on the growth of women's health products, I think we might have that. So if you want to follow whoever asked that question, if you want to get in touch with us directly, we could uh, figure out if that's if we have data on that. I think we do. In terms of investments, in terms of in data on that, um, I don't think we have that granular of a data of companies that are being invested into that are women led. I will say though that uh, women's health is definitely becoming a top uh, interest for investors. And I think that's been a more of a recent trend that we've seen. So I think all types of investors understand that there's a market there that's been overlooked. So next question here I have on highly fortified foods versus supplements in terms of investment patterns. Um, Again, I think the supplement companies that we've seen get invested into, the ones, particularly the ones, let me just see if I can scroll back here. Okay. I'm just looking, these are some of the big deals. I believe Groons, and I have I have a snapshot next to it. Groons, Whole Foods, um, Truvani, Clean Label, Equip, Clean Label. So I think yes, and definitely in supplements, you're definitely seeing a move towards clean label, clean ingredient lists. But I think that probably goes across the other, yeah, for food and beverage as well. But definitely within supplements, uh, it's it, it's it's what's on it's what's on investors' minds, and um, I think part of this also comes from the Maha movement and also wanting to get natural food colorings and we've seen some companies present that had presented a couple years ago, in particular in a alternative to red food dyes. This was a natural alternative to that. They presented about 5, 6 years ago, and then came back and just the interest around them was it was a little bit of night and day since they when they first presented. So again, it's a it's and I'll go back here. It just speaks to a little bit. I would say this industry there was I think we all felt some confusion a little bit. I mean, we all understand it now, but it's, you have an administration coming in with themes that really resonate with this industry, the whole Maha movement, natural food colorings, clean label, supplements focus as opposed to pharma. But it was still very challenging, high interest rates, um, costs needing to be absorbed by companies. But I think we'll get there. I think everyone's adjusting to new supply chains, to the new normal, and as I had pointed out, there's been some interesting deals already. And this is just a snippet of what we've been seeing, and we track these weekly. We do this report twice a year, and if you follow us on LinkedIn too, we do updates regularly on what we're seeing. So I think we're pretty close to the end here. If anyone else has any questions, like if they want to put that in quickly, if not, you can still put it in the chat if we don't get to it right now, and we can address that later on. But in the meantime, I wanted to thank everybody um, for signing up and being here, and I hope to see most, if not all of you, at Utopia Now next week. So thank you, everybody.